Welcome to Practically Pastor, and today on Practically Pastor, we're talking about pastor appreciation in the last week of October, small groups, and wanting to quit. It's a little bit serious episode, but we got some fun stuff too.
I got no appreciation for pastors.
Hey, I'm just gonna say this: if your pastor appreciation lunch has some sort of meat carving station, I'm in.
Yeah, this is the month where people drop in to say I love you, and you're just sitting there waiting for the but, and it never comes. You know?
Always a good thing. As long as the whole pastoral staff is appreciated and it's not just a living eulogy to the senior pastor where we talk about how great he is and how much he's meant to everybody, and then the people behind him doing all the work get no recognition, I'm good with that.
Let's dive into those questions right now. Hey, don't do ministry alone. This is Practically Pastoring. So this first question comes from our Facebook group. I know this episode's coming out in the last week of October. That's because I always feel like as pastors, it's weird talking about pastor appreciation
Awkward.
as pastors. So I appreciate when like on Instagram, other people talk about it. But this is a question that came from our group, and hopefully whatever feedback we give you, you can like clip it out and give it to your congregation next year. But when there are multiple pastors on staff, is it a normal thing to have a church-wide pastor appreciation lunch in October for just the lead pastor? More context: 2 full-time pastors on staff, a lead pastor, and a youth/kids pastor. No part-time staff. Lead pastor has been there for almost 15 years. Youth pastor for almost 9 years. Congrats to that youth pastor. You're like breaking all the rules for how long you've been there. Church hasn't traditionally done a luncheon for pastor appreciation, but this year they are, and it is to honor only the lead pastor. Is it weird to leave out the youth pastor here, or is that something that's pretty normal? Delmar, what do you think about? Oh, wait, not Delmar.
I was gonna say it's not normal in my church.
Not normal.
Tim.
So this is something we've been doing for a few years now. I will say this though: I think sometimes churches do what they've always done, and they don't realize the optics of honoring one over someone else. I'm not saying that's right. I just think sometimes they get stuck in a rut and they've always done it. At Lakeview, we have been very intentional here. We do honor all of our pastoral staff. I mean, Frank, you were included a couple of weeks ago. We also brought up our youth pastor, Todd. And the best part about this is, Frank, you and I, we had
Youth director. I'm just saying, he doesn't have a pastoral title, does he?
I mean, he's getting a housing allowance.
Okay, I'm just saying it better be the whole
Fair.
staff
Hey,
that
this
has
is a
the
real
same
talk.
level. The same staff that has the same level title should be treated the same way. And if he is a director and you have a female staff person who is a director, even if you're a complementarian church, they should probably be treated equally.
Oh boy, Andrew, Frank, here's the best part. We
This
have
got
nothing to
so
do with this.
serious out of nowhere. I love it.
Oh my gosh. We have nothing to do with this. Our elders take this on every year. I don't even know which Sunday it happens. It's always a surprise to me, which I'm super thankful for because like you guys said, this is awkward. Like I don't like talking
Sounds
about
like
it.
the tail's
We don't-
wagging the dog, Tim.
We don't post about it on the socials. We just it does happen every October and I'm super thankful that it does, and I'm a big fan of honoring all of the pastoral staff involved.
It's tricky in our church. I will give you a smaller church context because we only have one pastor, and it's me. We do have one other person who could have the title pastor in our denomination, which is my wife, because she is a what do you call it? Not ordained, but a licensed worker. And so that's something we could do. She doesn't have that title right now. She's the director of children's ministry, but it's always like a surprise to me. I always kind of forget about it, and then like somebody just interrupts me in the last Sunday of October and walks up and hands me like a envelope. That's pretty much the extent of it. When I read this, I thought to myself, this does create a weird situation for this youth guy. That's tough. Also, what if they were going to surprise him and he wrote this before he knows it? And he shows up at the dinner and they're like, actually, we're honoring you. And then now this question is super weird. That's what's weird about it, though, is like you simultaneously feel this tension as pastors of like, I mean, I'm not trying to say like I want to get honored, but everybody likes to be liked. And because whoever decided this month is pastor appreciation, it just now created like a moment of feeling left out that we didn't ask for. I didn't ask for this month to be like, who did this? and it just was like thrown
Hallmark.
in our
I was gonna
lap.
say,
Hallmark. That's it. I don't know.
Yeah, so you know what I mean? It's like, so
Probably.
now I have to have this weird feeling of like, oh, does my church not appreciate? I don't know. And like when you're a youth guy in this situation, it sucks because it creates a situation out of thin air that you didn't ask for. I've never been at a church that did a luncheon. That's a cool idea. We just do like potlucks every fifth week, every time there's a fifth Sunday. But yeah, I mean, I can totally understand why this youth guy would feel awkward about this, because you're like, I mean, he's been there 9 years too, which maybe we need to even talk about. That's pretty good tenure for a youth pastor.
Fair.
I do
I
think
think it's time for the youth pastor to ask himself the question that every youth pastor needs to ask: when are you going to become a real pastor? You know, that's no. I got that question a lot when I was our church. We're very gracious. We're in that middle ground where we were small. We're not big. We're in the middle. And I'll tell you what, I really don't even know how to our church is very generous and gracious. And just last week, I had somebody come to me and handed me a stack of 15 cards, like at least, and every card was just inside filled with words. Like people, our church, I guess, has the spiritual gift of love, you know, and
yep, you
I
can't
taped them all.
you
I
can't
taped
eat
them all.
words.
I was
You
really
can't
hoping you were
eat
going to say
words.
cash.
They do something. I'll be honest. They do something later in the month that's really cool for us. But man, you know how awesome it was for me to go into my office and just see dozens of encouraging notes. Like, because how many bad days do you have? Like, it's nice to be able to pull an encouragement. But I think most of my ministry experience, there's never been an appreciation for pastors. I've been in a church where they put the pastor on stage, gave him a $2,500 check, had his name read in front of the state house, and honored him with plaques, and all of his staff sat on the front row and had to clap. I think the size of your church does matter. Let's be fair. Like a 2-staff church out in the country, that youth pastor, associate pastor is going to know more percentage of the church than a massive church with thousands of people on staff. That's just, how do you appreciate that? I think in those perspectives, one tip I would give, if you're in a larger church, pastor appreciate down. Like everyone's going to be appreciating the lead pastor and doing all these things. Lead pastor, write a note to your pastoral staff. Do something generous for them. Let them know you see them. You're not in control of this weird, awkward month. But I think that what you can be in control of is you can still encourage the pastors under you. And I think that's something that's worth not overlooking.
I don't know if the person who wrote this question is the youth pastor or if it's the lead pastor worried about the youth pastor. But I know you made this joke when you first started, Delmar, but like this reinforces that tension that a lot of congregants feel or perpetuate, that like the youth pastor is not a real pastor. And to some degree, some youth pastors carry themselves in a way that feels like they're not really they're not real pastors. But I do think that there's a large contingency of youth pastors and other, whether it's children's pastor or whatever, that do want to carry themselves in a way that is deserving of the title of pastor. So if I was a senior pastor and I have a youth pastor, a children's pastor, whatever the other pastors are, I want to make sure that we're creating a culture that all the pastors are designated as pastors and are treated as such. If this is a youth pastor, this is a good opportunity to see, if you have a good relationship with your lead pastor, to be like, hey, what can I do to make sure that in our church I am seen as not junior varsity pastor, but as a legitimate pastor? And there could be some communication issues, or some churches have this like unusually somewhat idolatrous view of the lead pastor,
Oh,
of
we
like
need to talk about that.
the man of God that can't be touched and all this other stuff, and everyone else is just like his lackeys. And if that's the case, then that's a big problem, big issue. But I do think, like, for example, I think at Lakeview, not to butter up the guy whose name is on my paycheck currently, he does like make
Tim, you're
much.
signing the paychecks
Tim
too?
signs the checks, bro.
Good
I
grief.
don't sign
That's a whole
anything.
podcast.
Oh my
He
gosh, dude.
I think he does a good job at trying to make much of Todd, the youth pastor, to make sure that he's not a junior varsity pastor. he is a pastor who happens to be over students. And I think this is the conversation that you brought up, Andrew, is like, well, in whether it's a complementarian issue or in general, do we try to make a strong distinction between pastors and directors, or is that simply like a gender thing because of complementarianism? Or should we make sure the congregation know and feel that whoever we give the title pastor to, I would say this is true at Lakeview, is equal to an elder in the Bible, because those words are the same. And therefore, when we're celebrating Pastor Appreciation Month, we're talking about the staff pastors at a church, and the directors are separate from that, or are we acknowledging the directors?
I think we need to clarify pastor. And in this non-denominational world that we live in, pastor means so many different things to so many different people.
Yeah.
The number of people that I follow or follow me on social media that, like, I'm pastor so-and-so, I'm a full-time real estate agent, and I might preach at a random church.
Some church
3 times
planner
a
who
year.
like hasn't even started their church can give himself lead pastor
Yeah,
and just
exactly.
like make it up, right?
And so I think that's
like
part
Mark
of the
Driscoll.
issue. Well, do you know what? Since Dell went there, I re-listened to Rise and Fall this week as I was playing Xbox, because I'm a very serious adult. And one of the thoughts that I had is, that you have these stories of so-and-so was 19 when he started to attend, and he was working on the music production team, and a year later he found himself as a pastor of the church. Like, well, that's a problem. It's
Don't
pastor
make
is not a
somebody an elder too quick, or they'll fall into the
Yeah.
snare of the devil. It's like, I wish the
Who's-
Bible would have warned us about this.
Gee,
Yes.
I wish someone would have said that, but we shouldn't be stingy with the title pastor, but we shouldn't be loose with the title pastor either, because so many of the people that give pastors a bad name should have never had the title to begin with. And I think Pastor Appreciation Month is a time, and I'm not speaking specifically about this church, but there is something different about that senior pastor or that lead pastor or that church planting, that person who has set themselves apart from someone who said 6 months ago, hey, I might be good at this job. Someone who has taken a season of their life to go through formal educational training. Someone who has sat under the authority of other people. Someone who's had hands laid on them by the elders in some kind of an ordination process. That is a pastor, not someone
Yeah.
who, hey, if I say I'm a pastor, I save 30% of my taxes, sign me up, let me do that right now. That's how we get into this problem.
I was going to say, I had this idea last year, and I didn't do it, but October could be a good month to do like a series on polity.
Yeah.
And just kind of like jump off
Yeah.
of, hey, I know all of you that listen to Christian radio are hearing about Pastor Appreciation Month. Let's talk about what pastors are.
Yeah.
And
And
kind
you
of
know,
do something like that, because I do think it's rooted in, you guys were talking about, it's not rooted very often in a view of elders and pastors that has a high view of plurality.
No.
It's like that view of like the pastor is the one, and we are fighting American culture, CEO title culture too, where if you have the title, then we see you as like you're the head coach, and then there's coaching staff, and it's like that's not how the church is supposed to be. The elders are supposed to be one unit in our polity, at least. And I think that would be helpful for people, because, man, how many times have you run into all kinds of other polity things where people are like, well, we should take a vote. And you're like, we don't actually vote on this. That's not how we operate. And, right now we're in a season where we got a lot of newer people around. And I know a lot of them have no idea what the title means. They just hear me called that. They don't know what an elder is. So, I think it could be a good opportunity to take something that's happening kind of in the Christian culture, at least, and jump off of it and do some good biblical teaching on what actually a pastor is in our church and in our stream of Christianity.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off that. Some of this is a discipleship issue. We say that a lot, but some of it is a discipleship issue. Our people need to know that pastors, that's a certain title. And I think lead pastor, if you're multi-staff, you have a big responsibility in that. If you have pastors under you, are you allowing them to carry pastoral weight? Like, I'm very gracious at my church. I preach once a month at the minimum at our church. So people see, I think that has something to do with it, because our pastor says, no, what we talk about, the plurality of elders as pastors. And also just some real honest talk for youth pastors. Stop staying 18 months and leaving, and people might start taking you serious.
Woo!
Wow.
And quit wearing Crocs on Sundays, guys.
But it's hard to
Every-
take someone serious when you're not, don't show that you're committing to them. Go whenever you're at the point of church and you want to quit and you don't, that's when you're doing good. We'll get to that later. But this is part of the issue, is because some pastors are seen as real pastors and some are seen as one who are LARPing as pastors. And we need to make sure
LARPing,
that
wow.
that we need to make sure that
Live
we're
action role.
actually
Oh, I
filling
got
the
it.
role.
Now, I will say this: if your church does not have a history of Pastor Appreciation Month, I don't know that you're the one to start it. Like someone else probably needs to start it. It was not a thing at Lakeview forever, and I never lost any sleep. Like I was a youth pastor for 9 years at Lakeview. Not one time was I brought on stage for Pastor Appreciation Month, and it never bothered me. Andrew, I know you guys don't have a culture of it here, and I don't think it's ever bothered you.
Well, so I'm a little bit nervous
Oh, no.
because I
Oh, no.
had a card and gift on my desk yesterday morning,
Okay.
and there were like multiple like jokes about Pastor Appreciation Month. And here's a unique thing between me and Tim that doesn't really impact you guys. If like the official day is the last Sunday of the month, my birthday is the 27th and Tim's is the 25th and the 26th is that day. So the praise team, like at the end of the service, like, who came up with this? I was like, it's a Hallmark or Family Christian. It's not anywhere in scripture.
Yeah.
Please. And if I was going to like make a day for myself, it wouldn't be the day before my birthday.
No.
I'd like to make it be 6 months out so I can, spread that cash out.
On that note, I think this is a very kind of awkward conversation, because if, let's say in general, you don't have a culture of having pastor appreciation, as the pastor, it's a weird move to start it. And if you're a youth pastor wishing that you were appreciated, maybe begin the conversation with your lead pastor, and then that can trickle down to the rest of the congregation. With that being said, I want to share with you about a very special announcement that's happening February 9th through 11th, 2026, right here in sunny Central Florida. We have the Practically Pastoring Conference 2026.
Oof.
Oh, it's an ad read, guys.
Chill out. Practically Pastoring Conference, February 9th to the 11th, Lakeview Church. Go to practicallypastoringconference.com, and we have a very special deal. It costs $29 for the early bird, which the early bird ends November 15th. However, we have a promo code.
Oh boy.
If you use the code Jeff Hates AI, all caps, Jeff Hates AI.
Mm-hmm.
But in fairness, Jeff hates a lot of things.
I do.
It does.
I'm a grouchy guy.
It will save you. It will save you $9, and it will knock it down to $20.
I feel passionately.
Guys,
I love what I love, and I hate what I hate.
I get
but
that.
tell me what you love about the Practically Pastoring Conference.
I mean, I love that it's February in Florida. By the time Maryland is beautiful right now, the leaves are falling, the trees are orange and yellow and all kinds of colors. It's really fun. It's like 50 degrees outside. Love it. But by the time February rolls around, it's like Christmas lights are gone. Yeah, you had Valentine's Day, but I mean, who cares about that? And the grass is all dead. Everything's gray. It's been cold forever. Baseball season's still a little ways off for me. And, it's just a perfect little break in the middle of February. You go down to Florida, you hang out with some guys, you probably eat some good food. You definitely get some new ideas that you didn't think you were going to get, because you're sitting around tables with other practitioners in ministry, sharing best ideas. You're getting encouraged. You're praying together. You're maybe singing some songs together with some other people in ministry who are really there for the right reasons. You're getting some great info. If you're ready to do what we're going to talk about a little bit later and quit, you might be able to get a job. So it's like benefits all around, And so
It's
I
3
really look
days
forward
of
to it.
hanging out.
Yeah, hanging out. Yeah, it's
learning
the best.
with your buddies.
Learning with your buddies.
And
If you
meet with
schedule
pastors who
it,
get you.
if you schedule your time right, you will not be getting ready to preach when you get back. So you got to learn how to delegate. So, there's just nothing but upside, and it might be the best $20 you ever spent. Plus, you get to type Jeff Hates AI, which is true.
Yeah, I just want to go ahead and specifically call out Sean Gaida, sign up, Jeremy Johnson, sign up, Dan Keaton,
This is
sign
what we're
up.
doing?
I'm just name
Wow.
dropping. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell him. I think this is one of these.
All those
things,
guys
if
that
you've
Delmar
been
just
there-
named, he's registering you on his own paycheck for Pastor Appreciation Month. Congratulations, guys.
I will if
appreciate
you
it.
guys come. I'm telling you, this is the kind of conference you go and you take your best friends in ministry with. This is where you go. You are going to make memories in the best way. Pastors need to make memories too. We are so big on making memories for others because we realize that those things are like little monuments in our life that call us back. I have made memories at this conference. This conference changed the direction of my ministry. I'm where I'm at in my church now, part and due to what happened at this conference. So I think this is one of those things. If you care about someone and they're in ministry and you're not a pastor, pay for them to go. If you are a pastor, take them with you. This is not some big um, mega thing where we're all sitting around praising these celebrity communicators. This is relationships. This is real. This is Paul and Timothy kind of stuff. So
Look, we'll be there. You should be there. Stop doing ministry alone. Come hang out with us. We want to see you.
$20.
$20. And if
$20.
you are local to the Florida area, Central Florida area, Tampa Bay area,
No excuse.
let's make this happen. All right, we want it. We want you there. We'll get you and your team here some way. Let's make this happen. PresentlyPastoringConference.com. Sign up today. Early bird ends November 15th. So don't wait because the price will go up the next day. Hey, let's go into our next segment. It's a question about how to it's a question about small group leaders. I'm gonna read this and then Del, I would love for you to kick us off.
sure.
I'm the associate pastor at a growing church, and we're at a point where we need to multiply our community groups. Right now, our main requirements are the community group leaders. For the community group leaders, are members in good standing, and we also leaned on recommendation from current leaders for potential co-leaders or people they see already doing ministry. With the growth with the growth we've been experiencing, we know we need to put together a more formal process for getting to know, training, developing, and onboarding new leaders. If your church has a system for this, I'd love to hear how you do it. One, identify and get to know potential leaders. Two, equip, train them before launching. And three, provide ongoing development and support. Looking for practical advice, examples, or resources that have worked for you in onboarding small group leaders. Delmar, what you got?
This is the good stuff, fellas. I'm just gonna. How about this? I'm just gonna lay like a bed, and y'all can plant flowers in it. Does that sound good? So, I think first of all, great problem to have. I think starting these small groups is putting forethought into it. You're doing more than most of the American church. Most of the American church is warm bodies. So you are already further along in this process than you think. You're already identifying leaders. One thing I would do to incorporate your pipeline would be have some sort of formal recommendation space that takes place. For us, it's amongst the elders. Our elders are in charge of pastoring the flock, so they know the people or they know the people who know the people. So definitely get in touch with your elders. We had one elder put one guy forward, and then he really didn't do well. Don't want to get into that, but it was like we had this accountability barrier. That's really good. Also, when you're onboarding people or testing them, don't just throw them to the sharks. We have a 2 to 3 person system in each group. We don't want any group to be solo leaders. One, if a leader's out, you're out of a leader. But two, because one is generally the strong player, one's more of the heartbeat, and you can kind of let them easy roll into your leadership. So, as far as identifying, I would have a formal process, probably with current leadership in the church. And then when they're in the room, I would not immediately throw them in the deep end. When it comes to training, very important thing, formal and informal. A lot of churches lean into one of the two. Hey, you just meet with me at Starbucks, we'll talk through it. Or this formal thing where they're all in a room. But I think it's really important that relationships is what keeps people there. Leadership might be what draws them there. And when we do the formal training, that's going to have like gospel fluency in it, leading prayer, how to manage conflict, stuff like that. But the informal training is when they're sitting across from you. Depending on how many you're going to have, you might want to have team coaches like over your men's group, over your women's group. If not, this might be something. Pick a leader once a week, go out and have coffee. That's informal training, it's relationship. Lastly, what I have learned in 20 years of ministry is the best way to have adult leaders is as much as you can keep the back door shut so they can't leave. And the way we do that, and nobody's perfect at this. I'm not perfect at this, but 3 things I try to do is we coach, contact, and celebrate. So we coach them because the last thing a leader wants to do is to find themselves in a small group situation and not feel equipped. Because it makes us feel embarrassed as the small group leader, but then we start having some questions about the leaders over us. Why aren't they training me in this? So coaching is very important. And then contacting them, that is a small text. If someone just pops in your mind, pray for them, text them, let them know I prayed about you. These things really matter. The last thing any human wants, even pastors, we just got finished talking about Pastors Appreciation Month, is to feel like I'm doing a thing and no one notices what I'm doing. It's very human, and I get it. So, like, make sure you're contacting them, and lastly, celebrate them. We do monthly meetings, but we also are going to be doing quarterly huddles. Man, we're going to give. Remember the yearbook superlatives that were kind of funny. We're going to be giving those out to leaders. Celebrate the obstacles they overcome. Celebrate the funny moments. That's really important. And lastly, the one thing I'll just say to kind of put all this in one big bag. Oftentimes, if you're leading a small group, you are not yourself in a small group. So one of the things I've seen that's worked very well in my context is our leaders are themselves a small group. I provide an opportunity for them to get together. We don't do it every week because they're already tied up once a week. So what we do is we meet every so often, we fellowship together. So we identify each other as we have our own small group, because it's kind of hypocritical to say, go be in a small group and all I'll only show up for is the one I'm leading. So those are just kind of the fertile ground. Y'all can shoot holes in it and do whatever.
I think so often when you pull up to the church and the 6 nicest cars are the elders' cars. Sometimes churches with small group ministries do the same thing, where it's like, hey, the 6 nicest living rooms are where the 6 small groups are. And
I mean, if you have a nice living
if
room,
you have a nice living room, you should host a
Fair.
small group. Just because you should host a small group doesn't mean that you should lead a small group.
Yeah.
Just because you can give to support the mission of the church doesn't mean that you should necessarily be one of the spiritual leaders of the church. And I think what we need to do in recruiting small group leaders is not just go after the people with the living rooms that can host 15 or 12 people in the living rooms. I think a really smart thing to do is to pair hosts and leaders up together and recognize that the hosts and the leaders aren't always the same people. Sometimes they are, and that's great. If you get someone that can host and lead a small group, that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But I think you need to be looking for 2 separate pools of people to really have a small group ministry grow and flourish. And you need to go after one group to say, hey, we're not going to ask you to become the Bible teacher. We're not going to ask you to be the, spiritual leader or the de facto pastor of this group of people. But what we would love for you to do is host a house, put some extra chairs out, maybe have a serving platter or 2 available in your home. And then what we're going to ask somebody else to do is, hey, do you know what? Your spouse works nights. You can't have 20 people over to your house 2 times a month. That's fine. But you're a gifted teacher. You are a gifted conversation facilitator with the study to back it up. We know that we can trust you as the leader. So we're going to have you pair with this other person to host and lead the small group together at their house or in the room at the church where we're going to host small groups. I think so often we try to solve multiple problems with just one solution because it's easier that way. But just because something is expedient does not mean that it's the best way to do things. And leading a small group and hosting a small group should not be the exact same thing. So find leaders, find hosts, and pair them together.
Yeah, I was even going to say you can have multiple other roles too. You can have a meal coordinator, you can have a prayer coordinator, you can have all kinds of stuff within a small group, so that it doesn't just end up leaning on one person. Um, this isn't particularly about small group leaders necessarily, although it kind of facilitates that somewhat. One thing we found that works kind of well for us now, we only have one small group right now, and the person that's leading it is very dedicated to spiritual formation, and so that's a huge blessing. But doing small groups so they're not just in perpetuity, they're like that they this small group's going for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever. It just creates on ramps and off ramps, not just for the people attending, but also for particular leaders. So if somebody's like, like I do some coaching, sports coaching with my kids. So, this season of the year is pretty busy for me. So I can't lead a small group then, but I could lead one in the fall. So that can create some more opportunity to bring people in and out of leadership in your small groups.
We have kind of a shadow and launch model, Frank. I don't know if you would agree. I mean, you've been helping us out for the last 10-ish months with our home groups, and that was a big push for us when I took over as lead pastor. Was, hey, as we grow, we want to maintain that family feel of who we are as a church, and home groups are a way that we can do that. So we ask every home group leader right off the bat to identify who's going to be the next home group leader relatively quickly. That way you can shadow, and then when the time is appropriate, to launch. And Andrew, to your point, not all of our home group leaders are at their houses. We're open to the idea of host / leader. And then Frank or Jeff, to your point, we also divvy up the roles. In my own group, we absolutely divvy up the roles when it comes. We do eat. Like, a meal is absolutely part of our home group. This is the first season where my wife and I, Steph and I, we are actually leading a home group. We've never led a home group. We have been part of a home group for a very long time. This is our first time leading one. So it's been kind of fun leaning into a new role in this season at Lakeview. But Frank, why don't you, what have you seen at Lakeview, and what are some things that you've come in and immediately had to tweak to make it better?
Yeah, I mean, whoever this is, I can give you our leader guide that we give to small group leaders. We have a document that kind of creates expectations, kind of creates what we think an ideal group looks like, and some other resources. So reach out to me, DM me or something, and I can give you that information. I think the big thing, if you need more leaders, is to begin now creating an open-handed culture with your leaders of saying, like, hey, whoever's in your group today, someone should be leading a group next year or in the next semester, and like being okay with that. Like, this isn't a thing where it's, if you join this, I think that was one of the issues with Lakeview at first, is that there's this expectation that if you join this group, you're locked in for life, and that you like shouldn't even consider leaving the group or starting a group, but you should be in this group until someone dies. And it's like, no, we should have an open-handedness, because as the church grows, there's going to be people who want to get into good community. And if you have good community, but you're hoarding it just for yourself, then we need more groups. And so, like, going individually to all your small group leaders and say, hey, I need from you to A, identify possible leaders, B, give them meaningful responsibility right now in the group, and C, when we or if we have any kind of events where leaders are going to be trained and stuff like that, invite those people so they can come and see what it means to be a small group leader. So I would love to send you, if anyone's listening, if you want, it's not very good, but it's what we have, a leader guide. I would love to hand it to you. It's like a little PDF. We'd give that to you.
And Andrew, you guys don't do home groups at Safety Harbor, or do you?
We have small groups that meet here at the church,
but not home groups in homes.
No.
Are you against that model?
Not against it. We just have the space here at the church.
We have a preschool here.
Well, yes, but we also have a fellowship hall and a couple of adult classrooms. So we have 3 groups that meet. I mean, we are 70, 75 adults on a good Sunday. So it's not like there's a ton of people. And we have 3 groups that meet here at the church. And we have one group that they were meeting in homes. And then during COVID, they moved to Zoom. And
stayed with Zoom.
And they've stayed with Zoom.
We've got a group like that.
People that have, some people that have moved and they want to stay in their small group even though they don't physically live here anymore. And so we have one Zoom group. We have a Saturday morning group in the fellowship hall, a Thursday morning group in the fellowship hall, and a Wednesday night group in Shirley's office. So we've got, probably 40 or 45 adults of
It's
our.
a good percentage of your people in a group.
We have about half of the adults in our church in a small group, but they're either here or on Zoom.
Do they all eat together? Because I'm trying to imagine a group without a full meal, and it is very hard for me to picture right now.
A lot of groups
The
don't have full
Saturday.
meals.
I've been a part of a group for a decade, and we have had a meal at every
Yeah,
meeting.
I don't get it.
The thought of not eating terrifies me.
Yeah, why?
I'm serious. Like, I can't imagine it without food.
I think there's one that has a full meal every week. And that's the one that's the men
Like in the
only group
Bible?
that has, yeah. We also have a full meal as a group every Sunday
You do.
as a church.
Yep.
So we had really good. Someone made like a tortilla soup yesterday. It was
Oof.
delicious.
Good weather for it,
Fantastic.
too.
Well,
Like one thing to add on to what you were saying, Frank, when you're recruiting small group members, it's like you're not joining this group for forever. I think when you're recruiting small group leaders,
say the same thing.
if you say, hey, could you lead a group for 6 months? Because chances are by month 4 or 5, that group leader is going to be bought in for that season of their life, not just that semester or that season of that one particular study. But it's really hard to get someone to commit to do something for the rest of their life if you're not asking them to marry you. That was pretty easy for me. It's an immediate yes. But in general, if you're asking someone for a semester-long commitment instead of a, hey, we want you to be a small group leader here for the next 20 years, it's way easier to get a yes if you're asking for a semester commitment.
Yeah. Let's wrap up this episode with one last question that we've probably talked about before. So I want you guys to give your like pastoral care hats on, and we shouldn't be too long in this last segment. This is a question that was also given to us on the Facebook group. There are not many places that I can post this, but I've been really struggling for a few years now. I've been in ministry for over a decade and have been in a really rough situation for the last few years. I'm ready to throw in the towel. I don't feel like I am wanted or needed in ministry, if I'm honest. I feel pretty abandoned. Every attempt to seek new opportunities has resulted in disappointment. I've heard and done the keep praying piece. Not sure what else there is. Andrew, how can we encourage this guy?
This is hard. It is. Ministry burnout is a very, very real thing. I spent a year and a half doing research into the subject, and specifically ministry burnout from about 32 to 45 is when it is the strongest. That's why you see so many people make the career change after the season in youth ministry, or you don't see a lot of 50-year-olds packing up and leaving ministry, but in that middle of the career thing, you see it. You see that a decade in, hey, maybe this wasn't for me. So I see you, I hear you, I get it. This is a very real thing. Another very real thing is finding a different role in ministry is way more difficult than we ever think it is. Tim and I were having a conversation last week about a buddy of ours who's kind of struggling to find a role, and we said, that wouldn't be us, right? Like if we ever had to make the move, like the way our resumes look, and I thought about that conversation after. Sorry to throw you under the bus, Tim.
Okay.
But I don't know. You hear this time after time, hey, I went to this school, I have this degree, I've got 10 years doing this, and I can't find a job. Or I did find a job, and oh, by the way, it pays $25,000 a year less than I'm currently making, and I'm barely getting by as it is. It is a difficult thing. And I think it's important to realize that not everybody is called exactly the same way. It is okay to faithfully serve in a ministry for 10 years and then say, God, I'm going to be a faithful church member for the next 30 years, but I don't think this vocation is where you have me. And that's okay. You're not abandoning your calling because you have fulfilled the calling that God has for you in that place and in that season, and that's okay. But if you are convinced that God has called you to continue in ministry, and there is evidence that God has continued to call you in ministry, then you have to wait on His timing and His situation, because it's like when Jesus says to the disciples, "Are you going to abandon me now too? Everybody else is left." And Peter says, "Where else are we going to go? You have the words of life." If you sense in your calling, God, where else am I going to go? What else could I possibly do? I couldn't see myself in any other career that is fulfilling, that's life-giving. Then stick it out and deal with the suck for this season until God reveals something and until God uses the perseverance that you've been asked to go through until that next season is there.
Man, my heart goes out to you. I think anyone who has ever done ministry for a period of time gets to the point where you're like, I don't know if I can go on. And I think in ministry, a lot of times we think we're different than everyone else. And in some regard we are. But anyone who is skilled in a craft who has been gifted with a calling, you get to a point where you're like, I could see burnout right here. Am I really moving forward? Am I getting better? I just want to encourage you. You might be at that point. And the number one thing you can do if this is a calling for you is to keep going. Endurance is one of the faithful things God gives us as pastors. It's not easy. I think all of us could relate. How many pastors are one thing we do champion is balancing extremely joyful moments and like the most gut-wrecking behind the scene burdens you're bearing at the same time. So I don't make light of where you're at. My heart breaks for you. I'm going to be praying for you. If you want to reach out to us privately and talk, we're here to talk for you. But I will say this: I saw some research the other day, and I sent it to the fellas. And this is going to seem self-serving, and it might be, but there are certain things that pastors who stay in ministry do. And one of the things I noticed was on there was a healthy quiet time, being with God. This is one of those things we cannot do it effectively without God. This is why we see pastors failing all the time in ministry. And the second thing that was on that list was pastors who go to conferences together was on the list of things that keep them in. Like, it was a list of longevity in ministry. When you sit across from the table from somebody and they say, I've been in your shoes, man, there's something on the other side of it, you might need to hear that. So if you reach out to us personally and it's a money issue, I'm sure we'll be willing to help you out, get you out here. Um, but also, this is a time to self-reflect. Sometimes God puts us at pivotal moments in life to say, okay, is this my next season? And one of the things I would encourage is hopefully you have some godly counsel in your life. If there's someone I noticed in your thing, you said it's hard for you to find a place to have these conversations. Strive to find that place. Strive to find that person. I've got a couple of men. I'm sitting on a call right now with 4 of them. I've called them in dark places before. You need to be able to have that. So I just want to encourage you. It's really easy to go super bleak with it, but this is also maybe I would venture to say this is actually probably God refining you. It's probably Him growing you, and sometimes we mistake that because perseverance is never something that is wanted, but it is something that produces fruit. I think I read that somewhere. So
Yeah, I was just going to add that, I think part of the struggle I see a lot of times with this is guys that go through kind of an identity crisis, because I think there's kind of an unspoken theology of like ordination and calling that we have in the evangelical kind of world where it's like a lifelong calling. Like once you become a pastor, you can never not be a pastor vocationally. And the reality is like that's not really how I think calling works. I don't think it's necessarily a lifelong calling. This is an area where I kind of I depart a little bit from even my own movement, my own stream in the Christian Missionary Alliance, where we talk about ordination being a lifelong calling, and I don't necessarily see that in the New Testament. I think that I can see that for some people, the season that they're called to ministry in terms of being vocational ministry almost is their whole life, and that's awesome. But for some people, I think for everybody, it's a season. You can go in and out of seasons of being called to vocational ministry. So, um, at the same time, I've been where this guy's been, where you feel abandoned. You feel like, it's like that Martin Luther quote of, am I alone wise? Am I the only one seeing this? And I remember a number of conversations I had with some close ministry friends who were like, no, man, you're not crazy. It's right for you to feel hurt and betrayed by that and all that stuff. So I think you need to have those guys around you, those people around you. But also just understand that like if you go into a season where you're not an employee of a church, that doesn't mean you're less called or that you have no purpose in your life. Obviously you do, and you might be able to see that fulfilled somewhere else that doesn't pay you, which is difficult. So that's one of the things for those of us that are in ministry and kind of forget in the week to week. Like I mean, it's at least twice a month that I'm like sitting at my desk, like, dude, I'm doing it. Like I can't believe I get paid. I'm getting paid for this. This is what I thought I wanted to do with my life, and here I am. Writing a sermon, calling people, encouraging them, doing the things that pastors do that you just kind of get in the rut of doing them and you forget, like, this is my job, which is awesome. I would probably be doing some of this as a volunteer at a church, but I get to get paid for it so I can do more of it. So those of you that are in ministry and not in this place, I would say just like take note of the fact that you're not in that place of feeling down or in the winter of ministry in the desert place, and just like remember the blessing that it is, and maybe try to find somebody who is in that place and encourage them.
I would say, first off, you're not alone. I think every pastor has hit kind of this wall at some point. You're not a bad pastor for being tired. You're a human being. Sometimes, sure, it could be the end of a ministry calling. It could be the end of a season, and this is just a difficult winter season. That's why community matters. That's honestly why Frank, Andrew, and I hang out every Monday. Like we're big believers in getting together, grabbing a bite, making sure we're okay. It's why all of us are on this podcast on a regular basis. It's why we started the Facebook group. We don't want any pastor to have to go through this alone. So I would encourage you, even in your local networks, to kind of do what Jeff just said, how he was able to get some local guys in his life and just talk to them. Am I crazy? Like, do you see what I'm seeing? What are you seeing in my life right now? Look, counseling, sabbaticals, taking time off, like those are not signs of weakness. That's a sign of you seeking health. That's a good thing. And I'm a big proponent of Jeff's take on identity, because your worth is not in your title or your role, your attendance numbers. It's not your paycheck. Like you have to be rooted in Christ. So we love you. We're praying with you and for you.
There's an opportunity here that let's say it's not I'm called to this. This is where God has me, but I can't be in this current role that I'm in right now, and I don't have a next step. You get to choose where to go to church for a season. If you are not going to be serving in your current role, you can plug into a church while you're waiting for God to reveal what that next thing is. That's almost like Bible college or seminary 2.0, where you get to just be an observer. You get to go to a healthy church where the rhythms that have made you so exhausted and the rhythms that have made you feel unappreciated or unwanted aren't there. And you get to see how a healthy church does it. And maybe you volunteer, maybe you get plugged in, and 6 months from now, they're like, ooh, hey, we have this role at this healthy church that you chose of all the churches in your network or the churches in your area that you've always thought, man, if I ever got to choose where to go to church, I'd go to this one, where you can spend 6 months or a year of your life. Who knows, something might open up there. Or you could spend a few months or a year there getting really healthy, so that next time when God has you in that next place, you can say, hey, here's how I've seen it done that didn't work, but I've also seen something work really well somewhere else, and here's how we're going to do it in this next season of my ministry. So don't think of time off or time away from ministry as oh, well, I'm just not in ministry right now. Think of it as training up for what God has next for you.
This is good. Delmar, can you pray for this person so that we can
Yes.
pray that they can make it through the season, and maybe they can even reach out to one of us.
Absolutely.
Go
Pray.
for it.
God, I just we come to you right now on behalf of this fellow person in the trenches of ministry. It can be really hard. It can be difficult. It can weigh on your soul. God, when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you think to yourself, what's today going to be? That's a hard place. So God, I just pray that you would let them know they're not alone. That first and foremost, they have you as their savior, as the perfect sacrifice for every mistake, every thought they've had. God, I just pray that you will also surround them with people, with community that would love and embrace them in this time, God, as they're working through what calling means, what ministry, what the rest of life could mean. God, I just ask that your face would be diligently sought. Please provide a peace that they don't understand, encouragement that they don't deserve. And God, I just pray that if you so move them, that they would um, even find community amongst other pastors, amongst other people who've been there. We pray this in Jesus' name, Amen.
Well, thank you again for listening to the Practically Pastoring Podcast. A reminder, go to the Facebook group, join that, and also go to practicallypastoringconference.com. Join us next February. We hope to see you next week. Until then, talk to you later.
See y'all.
Bye, buddies.